what is our estimation of sentience and consciousness, if not a sort of like view of how similar to us other things are, especially when we talk about intelligence, right? So you look at you look at like a measure of intelligence, it's tool use. Oh, crows are very smart because they can use tools. Oh, octopuses are very smart because they can use tools. But ultimately, why is that a positive trait that we are looking for? Do you know what I mean? In some sense, the best way to sort of rank or view organisms is based on how good they are at continuing life.
Yeah. Because you could absolutely, over the course of a few million years, evolve the ability to recognize a tool and use it as an automatic response. If it, for example, it's a stone, because like intelligence, in terms of using a tool, like me using a hammer, like I don't have any code within my brain that knows how to recognize, I wasn't born with code to recognize a hammer and use a hammer. So it's kind of, to a certain extent, it's a measure of intelligence because I have had to build a model post-birth of a hammer and what effect the hammer has and how I use that hammer. But 10 million years from now, we could have, it is technically possible, as long as hammers continue to exist in the environment, we could over the course of millions and millions of years, selectively breed for recognizing hammers as early as possible after birth and being able to use them. So a crow or a spider or something could be able to recognize a stone and use a stone to break something in a non-intelligent way, i.e. it could be a behavioral pattern that the eyes picks up the general shape of a stone and in the case of a spider, the little sort of spidery arm grabs the stone and bangs against something without that being something it has learned and picked up post-birth. I guess that feels why we use tool use to be a measure of intelligence, but that might be wrong.
I think, well, yeah, I guess. I mean, yeah. If what you're saying is that we use tool use as a measure of intelligence because it requires problem solving, essentially, right?
All I mean is that it could be non-intelligent. Like the use of a coconut as a shelter for an octopus could be a behavior that the octopus is born with, as opposed to a behavior the octopus gains throughout its
like
lifespan. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. But I think the key point is that it is the intelligence is the gaining of like that. Intelligence I think is really more the elasticity to be able to engage in new environments and sort of again, problem solving is the key word here, right? Because it is the ability to use information to gain access to something or to protect oneself from something in new in novel ways.
Yeah, ways that you aren't born with.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Rather ways, I mean, you say ways that you aren't born with. Yeah, sure. But maybe also ways that you aren't like explicitly taught
yes,
through sort of parenting, right? Because like,
yeah,
I'm pretty sure that I could probably come up with like a hammer. Not like specific, like, but you know, like the idea of hitting something with something else. Pretty sure I can figure that one out. You know, even if I hadn't been taught about it, I'm pretty sure I could probably figure out. There's a lot of things you could probably figure out if you weren't taught them. And what's interesting about humans is that we've gone to this point of like, we have taken this idea of like raising young and teaching young to an extreme degree, wherein there is so much knowledge that we just shove into people's heads from the age of like, kids know about planets. Why? How? What?
Yeah.
Weird.
Like kids know about fire and that it is dangerous and that it is hot and it can cook things and it can get rid of things. The kids know about like water and like all the uses for that. Kids know about saws. Kids know about hammers and nails and screwdrivers and all of these different things that like, if any one person had to figure it all, like think about every single bit of scientific knowledge that we've got. If any one person had to figure it all out, they could not. We'd be starting back from the start again.
And also if we lost all the knowledge and started again, we wouldn't automatically have it. Like not like we are born fundamentally the same as we were born thousands of years ago. It's just that we have a constant store of. We have all the information to quickly download all the stuff we've learned.
Yeah, I feel like, and at this, I'm not so sure if we are born exactly the same as we were thousands of years. I won't go out on a limb and say that, but
what I mean is, we're not born able to do nuclear physics.
Yeah.
So if we were born without any nuclear physics, it would take us all that time to re-figure it out again.
Oh gosh, I can't remember what this was. It was someone asked the question, how far back can you go, and take someone out of time? before they wouldn't be able to engage in human society appropriately. And I think like there were some Neanderthals who could exist in human society, but would have like a noticeably low IQ.
Yeah,
if that
sure,
makes sense.
Sure.
But it's really interesting. So what you're saying there is something that I find really interesting. So you wouldn't think about this, right? But like, you could go back in time. You could pluck Cleopatra, and you could probably teach her how to drive. Now,
Yeah.
right? That seems weird.
Does she not have
So
chariots?
weird.
Yeah, but what I mean is driving a car and driving a chariot, or do you know what I mean? They're
Yeah,
very different
I
things.
couldn't drive a chariot.
No, but you could learn, right? So
Probably, yeah.
you could pull someone out of time, and you could pull people out of time for a lot, like way, way, way back. Even though you think of them as being like not as intelligent or not as knowledgeable, you could pull someone out of time and say, okay, now here is all of the scientific knowledge we have. Here's how to drive a car, and they could integrate into society. The difficulty, like if you were to steal a baby from, like, I don't know, like 5,000 years ago,
Yeah.
I reckon you could probably raise it as a.
They could
as a-
do some
They
of the
wouldn't know.
jobs, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and that's insane. Feels very weird
Mm.
because we think of like what you're saying. We think of it as being that not sort of knowledge as being static.
Like we have progressed, but actually the knowledge has progressed.
Yeah.
We have changed a bit, but
We
not
just
as
have to
much
catch
as the
up
knowledge
quicker.
has
Yeah.
changed.
Yeah,
But that's what brains are for, isn't it? Is they're good at downloading information that the body and brain, like a brain is like a general purpose thing.
that's it. Yeah. It's a general purpose. It's what you say. You're able to learn to do things that you weren't born with. And what I wanted to sort of interject was that, well, I mean, technically you're born with the ability to do that, if that makes
Yeah,
sense. Do you
but
know what
I mean, only in the same way as I'm currently, I was born as a baby with the potential to do stuff that hasn't been discovered yet.
Yeah.
But
No,
yeah.
So what I mean is like your brain is built to be able to learn to do those things, but it's not built to be able to do those things. So in the sense that a spider is built to produce
Make a web.
webs, not just physically, but also
Yeah.
sort of like it's more sort of hardwired into them to make webs.
Yeah.
You can do that. You can just learn to do it. I'll just learn to make a web. That's fine. I'll do that. In the same way that like a sort of kangaroo boxes. I don't think a kangaroo necessarily learns how to sort of like, you know, do it sort of
It
thing.
might observe its parents boxing.
Sure, yeah. But then like I can watch a kangaroo and learn to do what the kangaroo does and also learn any number of martial arts.
Yeah.
You can just do that. Swimming. You just can't swim, but we can. We can't innately swim. We can't
Learn.
innately ride a bike, but we can just